Hey, Andrew. First,
Oh
first
yeah,
off,
hey Russ.
hey,
Yeah,
first off, listen, thanks so much for making time to speak to us today.
of course. It's always a pleasure working with you guys.
I'm looking forward to the conversation. Well, listen, let's kick off. Tell us a bit about yourself, who you are, what your role is at Remesh.
Sure. My name is Andrew Santana. My role is head of panel management at Remesh, which is it details essentially that I onboard new panels as well as cultivate quality measures to ensure that we actually have the right respondents as well as respondents to our quality data into our sessions. And my background is going to be in psychology, originally as my education, psychometrics, and
Right.
survey design, went all the way up to neuroscience for a PhD and decided I'd rather go into business. And so I started off as a project manager over at Dynata, which you may be familiar with, and then moved on from sales all the way over to panel management here. But currently, I am working with API integration on our platform for on platform recruit, as well as manual recruit for our processes for our live sessions.
Can you maybe go a little bit deeper? You said about on-platform recruit, so you gave
Mhm.
two different products there.
Certainly.
Maybe go a little bit deeper on those.
Yeah, and so to detail these two types of processes, we have three different types of real projects. We have our live projects, which are going to be recruited through a survey, which qualifies the respondents, and then we invite them at a later date for a specific time. And then we have our flex projects, which are going to be similar in style, where we recruit the participants through a survey, they get qualified, and then they go into a session that's over a period of time at which they can enter at any point. And then we have something called our on-platform recruit, which is going to be one of our newest processes.
Right.
And we currently have Prolific, who's going to be our provider for that. And we really appreciate the support and help there, guys, because honestly, without you, I don't know if it would have gotten off the ground. And individuals are now capable of going onto our platform without interacting with our services staff that deliver everything and doing most of it for them, most of it for themselves,
Yeah.
or they can actually contact us and we can assist them where needed. So essentially, we've allowed the power of Remesh to be given straight into our clients' hands. And
Right.
it's a very fluid process. It's pretty much just a few clicks, and then you can launch a project so long as you have your discussion guide built up.
Love it. And tell us a bit about Remesh. You said the power of Remesh. So tell us a bit more about Remesh and what that superpower is.
Yeah, and so you probably are tired of the term AI being essential and everything, but AI is actually very essential in part of our processes. So Remesh as a platform is going to be very similar to a focus group in person, except everything's going to be online. And what we
Right.
do is we ask individuals questions, and what they're able to do is respond to other people's responses in the same setting. So if I am asked about my favorite ad of a given three, and then I tell them why, then I'm going to be given prompts from other people that I can then rate. I can gauge it based off of how I feel about it. I can give open-ended responses. And then what we do on the back end is culminate all of those responses and give various types of variables to really hone in on details for
Right.
those. And so we'll give general assessments of emotions toward ads based on open-end responses. We will
Okay.
go ahead and give them ranking scales too for these. And the AI on the back end is essentially going to be developing all of that for a singular output. So if the client has, let's say, 100 people in session, they can get a singular idea that's most prominent for each of these individual aspects.
That's okay. Awesome. Can you maybe go, okay, some kind of customers that you would typically be working with? What does an ideal customer profile look like? And how would they be using Remesh? And why have they chosen Remesh?
Sure. Currently, our ideal customer is going to be someone who is hands-on. So with our on-platform recruits, going to be our main focus. So we have clients right now that are going to be consumer goods is pretty much our largest one. We
Right.
have B2B as well. Currently, B2B is unavailable for on-platform, but we do have services for that one. So the ideal client is going to be someone who's very interested in a common topic or a specific topic. Either one of those works, and they want to get information that they couldn't get just from a typical survey. Because while we do have quantitative data, qualitative data is going to be how we empower our clients' responses and our clients' decisions. And so, again, ideal client is going to be someone who's very intrigued by the current landscape of whatever interest they have. And
Yeah.
then someone who is typically going to be doing either consulting or going to be direct to consumer goods. And also, we do have tech, we have healthcare, and then we also have healthcare being both patients and also healthcare providers too. So I'd say the perfect client is anybody who's interested in receiving a question to an answer.
Awesome. Okay. And those guys, are they mainly in US, North America, or kind of more of a global footprint?
We have a global footprint. A majority of our services is going to be based in the US, but we have, I'd say, a significant portion, probably about 40%, that's going to be non-US. Right. And that spans from Japan to, say, the EU. We have some running in Central America. We have all across North America. There are very few areas where people have interest in fielding research that we do not reach.
Okay. Thinking about the customers you've got, then, what does a typical research project look like? And what are organizations typically looking at from human data? What's their key need from that human data?
Sure. And for the projects, do you want an overview of a project life cycle, or are you wanting an overview of like a project interest for the client questions?
I think from your perspective, it would be really interesting to see what does that typical project look like? What's the life cycle? What are typical outcomes and objectives from that project?
Sure. And so one thing that we do specialize in as well is essentially a consultative element. So a client will come up to us and they're interested in an idea. And so what we'll do is we'll hammer out the details for the survey to ensure that they're getting the right respondents. And then we'll go ahead and program that survey for them and then field that portion of the research to get all of the respondents that they're needing exactly. So if they're wanting ages 25 to 54, they purchased a car in the past 3 years and it's a model 2020 or the year is 2020 plus, we'll go ahead and make sure that we've created a survey and fielded to those respondents. And then once we have that, we go ahead and put them into the session and they start creating a dialogue with the participants from the discussion guide that they have. And that discussion guide is usually going to cover interest in specific models, interest in specific designs, and we're talking pertaining specifically to cars right now. But the topic at hand would be, let's stick with cars. If they want to go ahead and do, let's say, here is a proposed model for this car, we're going to go ahead and change the interior design here, and then they garner prospective ideas for each of these and then compare them. Hopefully that kind of answers your question, but I can definitely go into more detail.
No, absolutely. So talk about that need that you need to capture human data to help with those use cases. What are the typical challenges you would face in getting quality human data?
So typical challenges, as you're probably well aware of, are going to make sure that the responses are valid. And that comes from a lot of questions. So validity can mean, are they actually respondents? Validity could mean, are they answering truthfully? Validity could mean, are they actually present with their attention? And so to ensure that we achieve all of those as positives, we implement different types of processes, such as back-end checks through metadata. We do open-end reviews to ensure that they're actually giving us quality responses. And then we also rely on y'all's processes too, which are very, very, very good to enable us to actually have quality respondents. In fact, just to kind of to your horn a little bit, our removal rates with you guys are incredibly low in comparison. I would say probably about a tenth of what we typically see in other panels. So,
right, we like that. That's a good news story. Thank you for that. So why did you choose to work with Prolific? What drove that change and what drove that need?
I mean, there's a simplistic element, and then there's also going to be a more complex element. The simplistic element of why we were initially interested is going to be the cost aspect. And so the costs that we see associated with using Prolific, initially we were very excited just about how much less money it would be to run these types of projects through Prolific versus other providers. And we're talking costs that are probably about a third to a half of what we'd usually see. And that's very good for you guys. Also gives the opportunity for growth so long as you'll grandfather us in. What we've found beyond cost is actually the more important thing for us is going to be quality. And so one of our biggest concerns whenever we were doing on-platform recruit is that there wasn't going to be oversight for individuals to make sure that the respondents going into these sessions were going to be quality respondents. And we have people who are C-suite level that are going to be viewing what we essentially call the theater of these responses. And so we have hundreds of individuals at the same time responding back and forth. And then we have C-suite actors in play that are going to be key clients of ours. And so if we have bad responders, it's very apparent because they typically float to the top because they're registered as like, hey, this is a bit off. And so we are making sure every step of the way before that on our typical processes that those actors don't get involved into our in our sessions. However, what we found with Prolific on our on-platform recruit, considering there's no oversight whatsoever aside from the initial implementation, there have been very few, if not many at all, bad actors or bad respondents in our sessions. So that's going to be our biggest takeaway for a positive thing from Prolific is the fact that even though the dollar amount is less, we're not losing quality with it. We're actually gaining more quality than we've ever seen before.
That's great to hear. Yeah, well, I think we're seeing the same thing in terms of the need for high quality human data that gives rich insight is becoming more and more and more important, right? And
there, yeah.
Okay. How do you typically work with us? If I look at our standard route, standard way we work with partners and customers, some self-serve, some use managed services, some have an API integration. So how do you work with us?
I work with you by utilizing your platform completely on my end. So essentially, it's a DIY platform for me. So I connect your panel to our surveys, and I also connect your panel to our Remesh platform for our sessions. And so that means there's a fully manual process executing an end-to-end project. I will field the screener through your projects page, making sure that I have used the profiling that you have available, which is not to use the word too much, but prolific. And that allows us to target very specific respondents, minimizing costs as well. And then from that stage, we then move easily on to session invites, which is typically a fairly difficult process with other vendors because there's multi-stage levels that we have to go through. But because of the fluidity of the process and the project setup on your page, it's a very simplified process.
Okay, that's good to hear. You rightly pointed to data quality and high data quality. You've got lots of experience in this space. Why do you believe that we provide higher data quality?
There's something that you've mentioned before that I think is a big factor. A lot of people who are wanting to get, I think it's something that a lot of people don't highlight in market research. There is an innate bias in market research for panels because we're incentivizing them for response. And so there's a delay that you guys have for the allowing them into your panel that I think might actually create a big buffer between bad actors or bad groups of respondents and people who are just wanting to be a part of a panel, because typically bad actors and bad respondents want money now. And so that buffer time, I have a feeling, has a huge impact on who actually gets onboarded. And not only that, your I believe you have third-party checks in place, and you have actual checks that for individual respondents that enable verification. And that, coupled with that wait time, I believe is going to be one of those big helpful things that allow you to have a quality panel.
That's really interesting. Yeah, you're certainly right about third party checks. So everyone's verified. We know they're authentic. We know they're validated. And you make an interesting point about the onboarding as well, right? We have the concept of a wait list. So you're spot on. We manage the liquidity between bringing on board the right people at the right time so they're engaged versus having lots of people that aren't utilizing the platform. So
and I think there's also a really interesting thing too. I've mentioned this before, but you'll also have, and feel free to remember this later on, you have a Reddit page that's a very healthy base of people who interact with Prolific. And I think that kind of interaction in a third-party platform actually helps as well, because not only are you garnering feedback from that area, you're also going to be garnering feedback from your internal resources for messaging. And I think having a community that's actually interacting with each other in a way like that probably helps cultivate a good, healthy space too.
It absolutely does. Yeah, I think it's an important part, and we spend a lot of time kind of managing that community. So, and it's a really good call out. Do you have a sense of you rightly you called out our price point, our commercial approach. Do you see any alignment between we pay ethically, fairly, we make sure our participants are rewarded for their time? Do you think that has an impact on data quality?
I have, so it's an interesting question, because there's a way to look at it that is kind of reversed. So we oftentimes have people who come on and we're struggling with a project. It hasn't happened with Prolific.
Yeah.
In my past, we've had projects where we're really struggling to get participants. And so they ask, hey, let's go ahead and hire the incentivization of it. And to answer your initial question, you pay fair wages. Like it's one of the core elements of your actual project setup, and it's a flag if we're not. So in these instances where you pay more than a fair wage or a fair amount, you actually aren't increasing, in my experience, the amount of people you're going to get. You're increasing the likelihood of fraud because the higher the incentive, and this plays back on that implicit bias that exists in panels that with incentivizing responses, the higher the incentive, the higher the desire to qualify. And so if that's going to be a higher incentive and they recognize that, it's more likely that they're going to turn into bad actors versus getting more people in line for the sessions.
Interesting observation. Okay. Are there any
Hopefully
specific...
that answers, yeah.
It does. No, thank you. Are there any specific features that you particularly like or particularly utilize at Prolific or on our platform?
I mean, which ones don't I like? That would be a harder question, honestly. So I would say the things that I truly like and enjoy from it are going to be the simplistic project setups. You give me the ability to create a single point where that I can, which is going to be, I believe, a study is the label on yours, and then it's a project of the sublabels. You give me the ability to create a study, and from that study, I can then create individual projects which work essentially as quota groups with a targeting. And if I need to modify something, it's very simple to just duplicate and modify and then exclude the previous respondents from it and then launch again. That process can take 20, 30 minutes in other places. Here, it takes 2 to 5 minutes. Okay. So bottom line, it's ease of flow, ease of use, and the minimization of clicks. Because my life is literally based on the amount of clicks that I have to do for a process.
So that's to run a study, that's to run a project. How about in terms of filling that study, getting responses? What's your observations around that?
It is the quickest that I've ever seen. I'd say that there are going to be very few that can compete on that level. I've yet to see one that actually can compete on the level of speed. We have projects that require 300 qualified completes that we can achieve in an hour. And again, they're all quality respondents. And so I'd say speed wise, y'all are optimal, if not first class. Y'all are first class. First place, that would only be questionable because I don't know everybody. But I would put you there for my observation of the ones that I know.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay, that's really helpful feedback. Final question. Can you bring to life a project for us?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, please. Now, if you bring to life a project for us, what were the objectives? What were the outcomes? We love working with partners like you because of the kind of use cases we're enabling, because of the research that's being generated. So, yeah, maybe bring to life some of the work you're doing.
Yeah, certainly. We recently ran one of our largest multi-session projects for a client using Prolific as a panel source. The topic of interest was consumer perspectives on current U.S. healthcare systems, which, as we all know, has been a bit of a highlight in the past couple of months. Remesh enabled a C-suite member of a healthcare organization to directly communicate with over 600 unique respondents across 3 different sessions. Right. It allowed them to tap into the true state of current perspectives of consumers. And as you might expect, the information obtained contained very candid and incredibly direct feedback on what consumers would like changed in this landscape.
Can I ask for examples of that feedback?
Yes, certainly. So overall, what I could summarize it being perspective wise would be vitriol. It was anger. It was something that we likely assumed was the case just based off of common knowledge, but having that actual data show that there was true anger from these consumers about how healthcare systems in our country have treated them shows us that there needs to be something changed.
That's okay. Have you got a sense of how that client is going to use that data? What difference it could make?
I don't know exactly how they're going to be using it, but the fact that there was a C-suite personnel on board in the theater means that they were able to actually get that information directly from a consumer, which they likely would not have been able to do otherwise in a live setting, no less. So they could actually ask new questions if some new information came up during the process. I suspect, and this is again assumptions, that this kind of information can either go one of two ways. Again, it's the healthcare system in America, so there are a lot of different perspectives on it. It can either be taken internally and then they can adjust processes on there and for the singular organization. It could be published as information for other health organizations to actually adhere to, or it could be, as we've seen before, just kind of fall flat on possible changes. So we'll just kind of have to see what they do with that information. But either way, I can definitely tell that they got a lot of what they were interested in.
Okay, amazing. Well, have I missed anything? Is there anything else you would like to add to the discussion today?
I would honestly, there was only one thing there. It's like in regards to our partnership, I would say that there have been amazing things going on between the relationship that we have, specifically with the on-platform recruit that's going to be improving in our value overall. I'd like to know what you see as beneficial for the relationship with Remesh that Prolific has on your end.
We are. It's a great question. We're building out an ecosystem of partners that add value to our own proposition. And actually, if I look at our strategy this year, we will be focusing very heavily on AI type use cases from a direct sales and marketing perspective. However, we are very committed to working with strategic partners like Remesh to build out kind of game-changing use cases around market research, user experience, and everything else. And we need the best partners to help us do that. So we very much see this as being a two-way partnership where we generate value for you as much as you're generating value for us. You bring to life what we don't do, right? We're a human data platform, not a data collection platform. That's what you excel at. That's what you know. That's where you have expertise. So you're the perfect partner because I think it's the value comes from your expertise, our expertise, and I think that creates amazing value and does some amazing things, right? So.
Yeah, and then there is one other thing that I'd just like to add in regards to our relationship with Prolific that's been incredibly beneficial, and I think it would be something other people would love to be aware of, is the feedback process and update process and change process that occurs with our dialogue is incredible. From day one, since we've started using you as a platform for panel management, everything that we have requested has either been in the works, taken into consideration to actually make at least some minor adjustment, or it's been a complete overhaul of what ended up us being requesting something and then you actually making a complete overhaul on your end to adhere to what we need. And I think if you're doing this for us, there's no doubt that you've been doing that for other clients too. And I think that alone is value enough to actually be utilizing Prolific.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Yeah, we can't do it for everyone, but certainly we have the notion of strategic partners and strategic customers who we need to make some investments in, right? So it's the right thing to do, and it's something we're very committed to doing. So
yeah, and I think partnership is probably the best word for
this
relationship. So
yeah, I agree. Oh well, listen, Andrew, it's been a pleasure speaking today. Thank you for your transparency. Thank you for your amazingly positive feedback.
Yeah, of course. It's always a pleasure, and I hope to speak to you soon.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Andrew.
Bye.